Greetings, Patrick here, and welcome to Dollar Theater. Dollar Theater is an ongoing series that was created by our good buddy Josh Hobbs, also King of the Spectacular, in which we watch and review films for $1.25 or less. So today I decided to go back to some older films. I enjoy going back to and looking at classics, and I thought I'd go ahead and do it back to back. And we're going to be talking about two films. This week we're going to be talking about Meet John Doe with Barbara Stanwyck and Gary Cooper. And then next week, my Man Godfrey, starring William Powell from the Thin Man series. And this is actually one of his finest films right here. And Carole Lombard, who was a tremendous up-and-coming actress until she was tragically killed in a plane crash. So let's talk. These are both public domain movies. This is why the packaging is as it is, and they throw some cartoons in here and whatnot. But it's really all about the movies. These are two of the finer movies that were released in Hollywood's golden age. And so we'll get into Meet John Doe first, from Frank Capra. Now, Frank Capra is a name that some of you folks might remember from, he did a classic movie that we watch every single year, and that is called It's a Wonderful Life. And actually, Meet John Doe, I have to sit here and tell you that I was stunned. This movie came out in 1942. 42. The war in Europe had been going on 2 years already, and we had gotten into the war in 1941. Wow. So let me tell you about the movie. So the movie is basically where it's an old newspaper. And it got bought, the Bulletin, and it got bought by D.B. Norton, and the New Bulletin is taking place. D.B. Norton is a media magnate. Think Rupert Murdoch. Well, he's a media magnate, and he's a big mover and shaker. So he comes in, and the first thing he does when he comes in for his newspaper is that he starts cutting people. He starts firing them. He has a head cutter, a canal, and he sends him in there to cut everybody, to fire people. And one of the people getting fired is a columnist by name of Ann Mitchell, who's played by Barbara Stanwyck. So she's in there pleading for her job, and and it's not really working. And Canal says, well, you still owe the paper here. You still owe them a column before you leave. We're firing you, but your obligation is you have to, in order to get your last paycheck, you have to complete your last column. So she had one already, but she's furious, of course. So she goes ahead and she says, well, screw that. I got something else. So she sits down. She furiously writes this letter, basically about this guy named John Doe. He's going to jump off the building on Christmas Eve. There's just no hope for for today's world. This and that, and Ann says, well, we could make this into a series. Like John Doe, he could send a copy of a letter every week up to when he commits suicide. And believe it or not, they go for it. They say, okay, we'll do this, but we need to find a John Doe first. So they bring in a bunch of people, and there is Gary Cooper walks in there, and he's basically, this is supposed to be, it's 1942, America's still coming out of the Depression, so there's tremendous unemployment and tremendous hardships, homelessness, and the job market, well, by that time it was starting to pick up because we had a war to fight. But for this story, people are homeless. They're looking for work, and so they bring in John, and our Gary Cooper's character. His name is John too. It happens to be John Willoughby, and he's a former major league pitcher who has a bone chip in his elbow, so he can't throw. So he comes in, and he's just coming in because he's trying to find work and to get his arm fixed so he can pitch again. So they, Ann and Canal are sitting there going like, this is the guy we want. Let's hire him. Let's make him our John Doe. And we see and he's there with his friend the Colonel. And Colonel's nothing. He's a tramp, but he's gotten to be where he's comfortable with it. He's more comfortable on his own outside. He's okay. He's not really. And then he breaks out into the speech where he calls everybody helots, and they're going like, "What's a helot?" And basically, it's like you look at someone like the Colonel who's basically is truly free, whereas people like people who are employed, they have a house, they have a family, and they're all tied into so many different expenses and what have you, that every single day is a fight. It's like you have to go to work, you have to pay bills, you have to be, buy a house, you have to put your kids through school. I mean, it's just the way the way he spells it out is like, I'd rather be where I'm at, free under the stars, than be burdened by the trappings of civilization. He does it convincingly as well too. Well, they go ahead and they hire John Willoughby. They go ahead and hire him. They give him $50. They're gonna go put him in a suit in a hotel room. They're gonna get him a suit, and they're gonna start making him over to be John Doe. So, and the Colonel saying this is not gonna end up too good, and so sure enough, he gets out there and they clean him up, and of course he's Gary Cooper, so he's really, he's ruggedly handsome. Gary Cooper was actually 42 at the time this movie came out. So so Ann's gonna write all these articles in John Doe's voice. So she's writing the words that he's speaking. When he speaks, it's her words that she's writing, and so the big publisher, D.B. Norton, he decides to get into the game as well. So they go ahead and he throws his weight behind it, and even though the Bulletin, and his popularity starts to grow, and so the other newspaper, they try to, John Doe gets out there and do speeches on how we can be better people and be a friend, and it starts this massive movement. He overcomes people who are trying to discredit him. They want him to discredit Norton, who's back in his play. Politics get involved, but John is getting, he's getting more and more popular, and so then next thing you know, they're starting what they call John Doe Club. And he says, he's sort of seeing what's happening. He sort of sees it, and then he's he's wondering how John Willoughby's trying to figure out, how am I doing it? How am I making this work? How's this working? And is it really worth it? And he runs away with the Colonel, but then they find him. They find him and they bring him back, and they tell him that you don't understand the influence that you've had. Your words have mean something to so many people, and then there's a group of people that come and find him, and they tell him how much that he has changed their lives through his letter, his weekly column, his weekly letter, and in fact they start the John Doe Club, and basically the John Doe Club says, be a better neighbor, help your neighbor out, and they give several examples of where people were distanced, and they had no reason to. One man was deaf, and that's the reason why he could never hear his neighbor talk to him. So his neighbor thought he was being standoffish because he didn't know he was deaf. But if they had actually talked together, actually made contact, they would have known that. And years of people could have been friends. They lost all those years. So, it's important to bring together your community and try to be as one. So, I'm watching this. I know it's not my typical review here, but I'm watching this, and I was just thinking about us today. This movie is. We should be playing this movie across the country right now. Right now. This should be in the theaters right now, and people should watch it right now. It's a cautionary tale, a hopeful tale, what we used to be, and there's so much there. Oh, I had never seen this movie. I know I'm a Gary Cooper fan. I'm a huge Barbara Stanwyck fan. I had never seen Meet John Doe. For one reason, I don't have a TV, and two, I just, I remember seeing it on TV. I remember seeing it played, but I don't know if it gets played now. Maybe once a year on Turner Classic Movies. Maybe twice a year. I don't know. I guess I could, check in and see where if anybody's streaming it. But if it is, I'll put every link down in the description box where you can watch this for free. Meet John Doe, where you can watch it for free. This is a public domain movie, so you could find this on many different multi-packs. I would do that. I mean, it's probably on YouTube. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Absolutely. Back. Both of these will be on YouTube. These are both public domain movies. So anyway, they announced what they call the John Doe Club, and it sweeps the nation. Be a better neighbor, help each other out, and it's just massive. It's a popular movement. It's a people movement, and of course, the rich, led by D.B. Norton, want to take control of it, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to put, they're going to take it over and create a third political party. And that was one of the things about the John Doe Club, was that no politicians were allowed because they're politicians, and we all know what happens when politicians get involved with anything. They always fuck it up. Even when they tell the mayor of the town where they form the clubs at, he says, "I want to join." And after they tell him, so you can't join because you're a politician, and the mayor's like, "You're right. We mess it up." Well, they're going to give a big speech, and then Norton's what he does is he changes the speech. He has Anne, basically in his pocket by now because she's getting money. He tries to really get her and grasp by giving her a fur jacket and a diamond bracelet. But she loves John, and she knows in her heart what she's doing is wrong, and she takes care of her mother. It's, she's between a rock and a hard place. But she finally, when Norton shows his true colors, is sitting there and saying he's got all these packs in his room, in his mansion, and he's sitting there and what we're going to do is we're going to have John Doe announce a third political party, and then he's going to announce me as the candidate for president. And so basically, it's just this, it's just like, of course, none other than Canal, the man who was the right-hand man of Norton. Well, he's sick of it. He's sick of it. So he goes and tells John what's going on. And John confronts Norton at his house and sits there and says, you can't destroy the movement. You can't do this. This is not right. I'm going to go down, to the convention and tell him. So and Norton, he shuts the door. He says, well, I made you. I can put you back. I took you off the street. I can put you back on the street. And no one's going to believe anything you're going to say. You think people are really going to, how do people going to feel when they find out that they're John Doe? Basically, it's just a fake. You had no intention of killing yourself on Christmas Eve. Everything up to here is all it's just been it's been manipulated. How do you think all those people are going to feel knowing that you're just a fake? But John has actually embraced the messages that Anne has been writing, and he believes 100% of what she's writing and what he's saying. He believes it. He wants it to be just like that. He wants it to be one country, united under God. And so he says, well, I'll stop you. And he attempts to do that by going to the convention. But Norton has, John's playing checkers and Norton's playing chess, and he manages to shut down John. John can't get his message out, and when people find out the truth about what was happening, it looks like they're all going to turn on him. And so he barely escapes with the colonel's help, and so we see them and the movement's been destroyed. The John Doe clubs have been destroyed, it looks like, and they're back they're back underneath the stars. And of course, John is, Anne's looking for him, desperately trying to find him. And then it comes to be Christmas Eve, and John's he's gonna honor his word. He's gonna go ahead and commit suicide to show the people that he meant it. They weren't just fake words. And if it takes his life to do so, then that's what he's gonna do. So he climbs up to the tower and he's getting ready to go. But the rich people, they're concerned. They're concerned for two reasons. They're concerned because that he actually could do that. Would he do it? Would he actually do this to prove his point? And they don't want him to. They don't. Some of them in their hearts, they know what if he dies, they pushed him. They're responsible. And they don't want that on their conscience, which is really shocking that they even have one. Norton goes to the building with some of his cronies. What they don't know is that there's also a large group of John Doe followers there, and they want to make sure that he's not going to do that. That they want him to know that his message is still alive in them, and what he said they still believe. And they're not giving up on the idea to be a better neighbor. And they're not getting rid of their John Doe clubs either. So they all meet at the top. And sure enough, John's gonna, he mailed out a letter to Canal because Norton says, well, if you jump, we're just gonna clean you up off the street and bury you in a potter's field. No one's even gonna know that you're dead. Well, he's actually checkmated Norton this time, as he says, I've already sent out several letters stating what's going on and what I did. He can't stop them all. And then when the John Doe supporters come, there's no hiding for Norton and his cronies. They're seen for what they are. Though there's some of them that really don't want John to die. They, even though rich and powerful, they have sort of a late start conscience, and so Anne gets there and she's really sick and she's just, her heart's breaking. She's so sorry for what she's done, and she says, "Please don't do this, please don't do this," and she's sick, and so she passes out, and he picks her up. John picks her up and. He says, and the people there are telling him, don't die in vain. Your death will be in vain. Don't let it be in vain. It takes a lot more courage, though I don't know about that. I don't know. I can't say that. Though back in 42, Capra said that, if it's worth dying for, it's worth living for. That's up for debate. Sometimes it's a tricky moral question, right? So the movie ends with John picking up Anne and walking out and walking toward the elevator, and Canal has one smart remark to Norton before he leaves, and the movie pretty much abruptly ends right there. I say abruptly because I thought it'd be just a little bit longer, but it was 2 hours and 25 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes. But what a tremendous film! Wow, I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's just a classic film. So many different, and so beautifully well made. I mean, this movie for 1942 and the budget it's tremendous movie. The shots they set, the the shots of people inside the stadium. I mean, it's just amazing how much this movie. It must have. I'm curious to find out how long it took them to film it. The acting is absolutely supreme. The snappy one-liners, the dialogue flowing. God, they knew how to write back then. Wow, they knew. I mean, those are screenwriters back then. The dialogue is just so empowering. Even the bad guys get some really funny, get some really funny and some poignant words. The acting from top to bottom is great. Of course, Gary Cooper is, he won 3 Oscars, 2 for his acting, 1 as an honorary Oscar. Barbara Stanwyck was just an absolute, she was lovely. I have always enjoyed watching Barbara Stanwyck. I didn't know her at all until I watched The Big Valley, and then I got to slowly know about her filmography. Gary Cooper, of course, he was tremendous. Sergeant York, classic. And of course, they're very well known and the very famous High Noon. God, he was relatively young when he passed. He was only 60 when he died of cancer. Barbara Stanwyck, she died, wow, I want to say maybe, wow, that's a really good question, because she was still active in the 80s. She made a movie called the Thornbirds in the 80s. I believe that she died like around 90, 91. Don't quote me on that. But she was tremendous. And she was really good here too. I really like this movie a lot. I wish I could, I have to say it again, that I really think that this is a powerful movie. It talks about this country not falling to the fascist. Norton wants to take it, and that's his platform. His platform is one of fascism. And he says it right there in the speech. He says, America needs the iron fist. It needs to be, people need to be trampled down. They can't breathe. We're going to take some of their freedoms away. 1942. And it's right here today in our own front yard. We got our president saying that, he could, a movie like this, in theory, it might be actually outlawed. I could see that. I could see this movie being banned in another year or two. I seriously could. Movies like this will be banned. It's incredible to even think about, much less actually put into words, but it could be. Well, we already see that with books, right? What's to say it won't start with movies? And if so, this would probably be one of the first movies that is banned. Or removed from the National Congress, the library, National Library. It could be removed. I'm not kidding. But, yeah, definitely recommend this movie. It's definitely one of the best movies I've seen this year, since this is a first-time watch. But what do you think? Have you watched Meet John Doe? What are your thoughts? I know Ryan will comment, so I'm really curious to see what he has to say. And thank you for that. Ryan. I have friends in the UK. I have a feeling that we'll watch this all the way through. Mike, and I wonder how many others will. Shirley, I know Cheryl will watch this all the way through. But I really like to know your thoughts about this movie, everybody else. I don't know if anybody's ever reviewed this, at least in my corner of YouTube, but I'm going to go look and see if anybody has done that. But for next week, we will definitely go a lot lighter. We'll be back and we'll be doing My Man Godfrey, which is a very entertaining film. And thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider the like button. Drop a comment, and yeah, and hit the sub button. Love to have you join us here. We are racing to 1750, and if you want to be a part of that, that'll be awesome. And look forward to meeting you. That's it for now. Thanks so much. Peace.